For me, I think what's most important when buying a black dial watch is legibility. When it comes to black, it's tempting to match it with more and more black to create a stealth look. And I've nothing against that as a concept, but it can be problematic when it comes to a watch dial, as a lack of contrast is going to cause legibility issues, therefore making it harder to tell the time than it need be. While I love my watches for many different reasons, I can't really get on board with wearing one which isn't designed first and foremost to tell the time. It's why I've sold off things like the D1 Milano Adventurine from my collection. I wanted to explain my position and viewpoint on that at the start of the video, so you have some context for the picks that are to follow. Before we start, let's just have a quick refresher of the rules I'm going to follow for this video. First of all, the main colour of the dial must be black. Secondly, the watch has to be available for less than $1,000. And finally, for the sake of variety, each brand will feature only once on the list. With all that said, let's get into the video. Now, given what I've just said, straight away you might see an issue with this selection, as you can argue that the legibility on this model isn't the best. But I would have two counterpoints to that. Firstly, the watch has an inbuilt light. Its purpose really is to make it readable at night, but you can use it in other lighting conditions too. Secondly is the existence of the 1ADF model, which is the exact same watch, but the contrast has been reversed on the dial. Regardless of which model you go for, you're still getting that all black aesthetic in a retro design with the reliability, durability and value for money you'd associate with Casio. Behind the scenes, I've been spending time with the Timex Q Automatic recently. I just featured the quartz model on my channel, but as mine is starting to show signs of wear and tear, I thought now might be a good time for an upgrade. With the quartz model, I had all sorts of issues with the bracelet ripping hair from my arm. Today, I'm surprised to find that I'm not having the same issue with the automatic, though I would say that the clasp is a bit of an unwelcome reminder that you're wearing a budget watch, as is the unsightly black plastic edge to the bezel. Now, I do prefer an automatic over a quartz model almost every time, but I will say that having to set a day-date complication on one if you wear it infrequently is going to be a bit of a pain. Still, if you want an automatic 70s inspired sports watch with a black dial, this is as cheap as you can do it without looking towards a homage. As I've said in previous videos, a rainbow bezel might not be to everyone's tastes. You might not like the aesthetic, and whether or not the associated connotations are something you want is obviously a decision for you. For me, I think it's a bit of fun and something that is guaranteed to stand out from the rest of your collection. If you like the case and the bracelet of this model, but not the colour scheme, fear not. I would point you towards the retro black GMT version, which has far more traditional coloration, plus the added functionality that a GMT movement brings. If one brand is synonymous with the colour black, it's undoubtedly Unimatic. Naturally, they were a brand I wanted to look at for this video as a result, but my impression from the outside looking in was that they were unlikely to fit because of what I've said about legibility. Their watches are famous for having no markings on them. It's one of their signature design aesthetics. Well, the UT1 is a little bit different. It's a tool watch, which is a 300 meter rated diver and also features an inbuilt shock protection system. The entire watch has been tested against US military standards for equipment. Given its depth rating, it is a bit of a chunky timepiece at 13.2mm thick, but given its use case scenario, I don't see that as much of an issue as I would with other watches. I'm going to award the UT1 with my recommendation for the video, because I think it not only looks great, but has the specifications to really back it up. Long-term viewers of the channel will know that I have a serious soft spot for anything involved with space exploration. While you might not be able to buy a Speedmaster for under $1,000 outside of the Moonswatch range, you can still buy a Moonwatch with the Bulova Lunar Pilot. My favourite element of this watch has always been the pushers. I love how they resemble crown guards, and I think their size makes perfect sense when you think about what you'd be wearing given their use case scenario. The issue with these watches has always been their size. 45mm in diameter is huge, to the point where even people with larger wrists would struggle to pull this watch off. While still far too big for me, the newer 43mm versions do make this watch a lot more accessible for a lot more people. This watch has an all-black case, dial and bezel, so it fits neatly into that stealth aesthetic I mentioned at the very start of the video. However, thanks to its generous use of cream and orange tone Lumibrite, it's an extremely legible watch with a good deal of contrast in all light conditions. My favourite element of the watch is actually the strap, which is hands down the most comfortable that I own in my collection. As far as dimensions go, this watch is a bit of a mixed bag. It's 40.5mm in diameter, but has a comparatively short lug-to-lug of 47.6mm, so wears a little smaller than that size might indicate. The issue really is the thickness of the watch. It's a 200 meter rated diver, so it is going to have a little bit more heft to it, but it comes in already at 13.2mm thick. But if you're wearing it on that lovely NATO strap, realistically it's going to wear closer to 15mm in thickness. So this is definitely not something that you would wear with formal clothing as a result. It may be a little harder to get hold of now, as it was a limited edition model and the price listed was during a sale plus a discount code. Another thing I have a real soft spot for is vintage Omega models, as mine was the catalyst for me getting into the hobby of horology in the first place. Finding one with a black dial that's legible is really quite tricky, as a lot of the models have reflective sword handsets. It's a cool idea, but it doesn't make telling the time particularly easy. In the end, I've selected a model that combines quite a few things I've been looking into recently. A black dial in a square watch with a gold case. It does still have those reflective hands, but these ones have lume on them, which makes them much more legible than most. I can picture myself sporting a huge moustache and rolling over the bonnet of a Ferrari while wearing an outlandish shirt with this on my wrist. It's certainly not for every occasion, but I do quite like it. When researching this list, I was initially drawn to the swirling textured dial of the NA 1025-10E, but that model completely breaks the budget of the video. When looking in the direction of the Series 8 range, I'd always been most intrigued by their angular models like the NB 6010-81E, but having tried one on, all I can really say is that you need a much chunkier wrist than mine to pull it off. Well, that's where the NA 104-87E comes into play. Apologies for all of these code names. It's a little more forgiving on wrist, as the angularity has been dialed down, and also boasts an upgraded movement designed to negate the impact of magnetic fields. I'd still say it's better suited to the larger wristed, but it's a handsome timepiece nonetheless, and I dare say it might be possible to pick one up new under $1,000 if you time your purchase with a sale or discount code, though I couldn't quite find one that took it that low at the time of making the video. Now, I did give a pretty scathing review of the new Tag Heuer Formula 1 models, So this suggestion might actually come as quite a surprise to longer term viewers of the channel, as will the suggested price point. However, the WA1214 was produced in the 90s, and the price I've listed is for one in absolutely perfect condition. And note that it still comes in several $100s cheaper than a Kith. I think some people may have misunderstood my position on the Formula One. I think this is the definitive version, and far prefer it to the modern iterations. This has its own unique style to it, and I just don't like the price gouging that Tag and Kith have tried to do. And frankly, as a brand, Kith adds nothing to the value of the watch for me, whereas a vintage piece would add a little to anyone's collection. Last week, I spent some time putting together a tier list of watch brands. I hoped that it would foster a bit of discussion, and it did. The main thing I took away from it was a recommendation to have a closer look at the Ball Watch Company. And hopefully you can tell by the inclusion of one of their models on the list, I've gone away and done just that. While this is not a model that comes with their tritium tubes, its lume is still going to quite easily outperform anything else featured on the list today. Given that this is a watch that carried an RRP of $2,500, you're also getting a Ball caliber RR1103 automatic movement, which is based on the ETA 2824. Alongside that, you're getting Swiss made on the dial and can expect much better build quality and quality control as a result. Given that it squeaks just under the $1,000 price range, it is unsurprising then that this is about as much watch as you could possibly hope to get with the stipulations outlined at the start of the video. So, there you have it. What I consider to be the best watches money can buy under $1,000 with black dials. I definitely don't expect that everyone will agree with me, but that's part of the fun of it. If you think there are more deserving timepieces that belong on this list, let me know in the comments below. I'm always keen to hear about watches and brands I'm less familiar with or haven't even heard of before. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this.